Alright guys, shout out to Paul RiseAB for this recommendation. Optiv and BTK, Shredder. We had to do an Optiv and BTK tune. Both of those guys signed a track from me and I'm always forever thankful to these dudes. Rest in peace, Optiv. Shout out Vinny, absolute ledge. That intro lead is so simple, but it's so like, it just sounds like virus, you know, it just sounds like system infected, you know. Just literally two notes basically, but it's just got like already an eerie kind of harmonic to it, so you don't really need to do much else, you know, to create that vibe that they're going for. Obviously, I like it how the drums, you know, come in straight away because they're so well crafted. Obviously, they just stand out as they are on their own. Like, it's quite cool when you have full drums in the intro. It makes it easier to mix, definitely. But yeah, they just sound great on their own. Like, even if there was nothing with these drums, they'd still be epic. What they really play with on this track, which I like, is kind of one of the main reasons why it was so popular as well, I believe, is like the timing of things, like slowly going faster and faster, you know, over a certain amount of time, but it's not necessarily in time with the track at any point. It's just like slowly going up, and that kind of throws you off a bit, but it's also, you know, really makes you pay attention. You kind of had that thing like in the background there that was already doing it, and then as we get further into it, you know, the vocal on the main part is going to do this as well. So the way it's like slowed down, it's almost like a slowed down vinyl effect, and then the way it kind of speeds back up again. At this point, it kind of, as a DJ, it kind of forces you to like play this intro part. Like, it wouldn't really sound that great if I don't think so anyway, if you mixed it, you know, with something else. At this point, it's like, you know, this is the signature style of this tune, and this is kind of like, you know, you've got to hear this part really. It's really great how they've sort of mixed everything in together, because there's a few different sounds, but they're all going at this, you know, this speed up kind of rhythm, but they're all like working together. So it's obviously they've obviously affected the whole group of sounds, you know, with the same like automation. That part that comes in, it's like the kind of you already get the lead kind of bass, but it's so distorted and it's really, really wide, and it's like, it's a cool prelude to the bass because it's like so overly affected, but then when it actually comes in, then it just makes more sense. What I always like loved of this track when I first heard it is how the lead kind of vocal is a vocal essentially. Like the lead bass like is made from a vocal, but it sounds like it could be a bass line, and it's that kind of mix of like mid bass and vocal tonality together that makes it like sort of so catchy, because it's got that human like sound to it, you know. So even though it's not like, you know, lyrics or anything, like just having the human voice as sort of a lead, it just really makes the song more relatable. And I think that's why this one was you know, quite popular, because the speed up intro thing was awesome, and then you had this like really relatable kind of bass hook, which kind of stands out in amongst a sea of other productions, you know, which are just sort of drums and bass and quite synthetic. Just by having those little vocal touches, I think it's really, really a nice touch. And obviously those like drum patterns, although they're quite simple, the actual kick and snare are so punchy, and like they have an organic edge to them as well. And it's very simple, but it's just right. It's just the right formula for this kind of song. That little drum fill there before was really nice as well. And then on this part, obviously we've got a kind of part of the song which is very similar to, you know, other songs from Optiv BTK where they employ this kind of technique where you're basically just repeating the bass line, but you're putting a low pass filter on it, so it doesn't have the same sort of brightness as the original one on the drop, and then it just comes up sort of slowly as the phrase progresses. Like now, those like lead synths, like the one you had just before the drop as well, I think it's the same sound. They just break it up, you know. It's just a kind of a response to that main lead vocal bass hook. And then you've got different versions of them. Like for example, there it's like one without much brightness, and it's just going along with everything. And the one before that was really bright and aggressive, you know, it was played sort of as its own lead sound, like to contrast everything else, because everything else cut out, and then you had this like loud aggressive lead. So, you know, they're using it in, like with the mid basses, they're using things in sort of two different ways. Like it's either serving a sort of slower, more background purpose, or it's really upfront. And depending on where you are in the song, like they use it in different ways. And basically that's just, you know, just playing with the composition, just keeping things interesting as you go along. Here where the bass has been sort of low passed, so it doesn't have that brightness, it really gives space for this sound effect that's coming in with the weird sort of timing over the top. You know, they've taken out that area of the frequency spectrum to allow space for this to then come in, which is obviously just dope in it. This bit's sick as well, because that kind of intro thing is brought back in, like the intro lead that we had with the up and down note. But obviously this time it's been low passed as well, and it's creeping in again slowly. So again, it's, you know, there's, like I mentioned before in some other songs, you know, a really key thing is to always have something that's sort of slowly moving across like each particular phrase, something that's slowly increasing in intensity or perhaps decreasing in intensity, and that keeps the narrative of the song going. that section was really, really nice actually, because there's a few different elements working together in the way that they're like evolving separately in different ways, and that just creates this overall like soundscape, which is quite sort of interesting still. So that obviously that lead sound is very bright at this point, and that's going, and then we've got this kind of noise that's also moving and breathing in its own lane, and then there was these like fast these kind of effects things that are changing speed as well. So there's at least 3 different sort of things working together to create that interest during like the breakdown. Also, the artwork is so sick. Look at it. So, again, this section, like, it's the same as the drop before, but there's just some extra fills and little chop out sections, which are, it's just adding variations. And the reason why that bass hook is so good, it's so like straight, and it's so like dubby 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 dubby, you know what I mean? It's very, very simple, but it's the sound of it which is really interesting, because it wasn't really it was its own sound. There's nothing else like it, because it's like a vocal, right? That is like, when you heard that, it was like it was hearing a new sound for the first time, and used in such a creative way. That's what really made this track really sort of hit quite hard when it came out, I believe. And yeah, so but having that kind of straight beat bass line, the sound has got to be good if you're going to do that, and got to be different. And in this case, it obviously is, and it's wicked. But also, what happens when you have that really straight and obvious like bass rhythm, it just makes it more danceable, like in the club. Do you remember clubs? Do you remember clubs? They clubs. Do you remember them? Yeah, like in the club. When that's like really obvious kind of bass riff is going on, like it's funky and it's offbeat and it's very straight. It's just like really easy to dance to, and it's just very danceable. And yeah, so having that interesting sound and that like danceable, simple bass is like why this track did so well, like in sound systems and in the clubs, because I've heard it played out lots of times, and people are always vibing and dancing to it. Like it always gets a wicked reaction. I've really got mad respect for Optiv and BTK's music. I think I've included at least one of their tunes in pretty much every set that I've ever played. Like at least 75% of my sets have always included at least one of these two guys' tunes. Absolute legends. It's actually BTK was one of the first people that signed my tunes. Surveillance, came out on Dutty Audio, I think like 6 years ago or something, and then Optiv actually mastered it. I never met him in real life, which is a real shame, but I spoke to him a few times on Facebook and stuff, and he's always proper nice guy. And then I eventually signed a song with him on Red Light, which is called Insidious, collab with Kaiser and Tom Tech, which was really cool. But yeah, it's such a shame I never got to meet him. But BTK, absolute ledge. Met him a few times. I love, the beat of the drums is so straight, but occasionally you just get this little like open hi-hat, or like a little extra ghost snare or ghost kick like towards the end of a 4-bar section, and that's just what keeps it groovy the whole time. Even though it's quite a simple straight beat, those little fills just really like keep it moving along, so it never really gets tiring. And the sound of the drums is also like sick. Like, I would still absolutely bang this track out now, even though it's a bit old, you know? Like, I think tracks that have a good vibe and a good sound and I have funk and groove, like, I don't care if it's not like 100% maximal sound level compared to some other new songs, you know? Like, if it's got groove and vibe, you can still play it out, you know? Why not? People are definitely going to be dancing to this one. Yeah, the vocals are really cool as well. The shredder, when it's like stretched out so much, it like gets this like granular texture to it. Like all the sort of individual sound samples of the sound are like, you know, it's quite nice, quite a nice like spooky effect. Essentially, this is like, it's virus, you know. It's got to be dark and dirty and funky as well, you know, and that's the kind of vibe that I love, you know. It's got a bit of an element of darkness to it, but it's still got like proper groove and funk. Oh, bit disappointed with the outro, if I'm honest, you know, a bit of a fade out. Could have done like could have put in like the sound of a chimpanzee or like some bongos like in a conga, you know. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, wicked tune. Yeah, let us know in the comments next tune you want me to analyse. Peace.